I never thought the night I walked into Harper's Diner, the place everyone in my small town swears by for the best damn pancakes in the county, would be the night that changed everything. Not because of the food, not because of the storm outside, but because of the woman who slid into the booth across from me like she'd known me her entire life. But before I tell you about her, I need to tell you how I got there. Because nobody ends up pouring their heart out to a stranger at midnight unless something inside them has already broken. My name's Ethan. I'm 24, work as a junior mechanic at Baxter's Auto, and until 3 months ago, I thought I was on track to marry the girl I'd been with since high school. Her name was Lily. Blonde, soft-spoken, the kind of person people described as sweet, even if they didn't know anything about her. For years, I believed the same. Then I found out she was cheating. I didn't catch her in our bed or anything dramatic like that. No, this is real life, and real life has a way of being quieter and much more vicious. I found screenshots, messages, stupid emojis. Can't wait to see you tonight, written to someone who wasn't me. The kind of thing that makes your stomach drop before your mind even understands why. Turns out it had been going on for months, maybe longer. I confronted her. She cried. She blamed stress, confusion, emotional distance, all the usual things cheaters pull out like pre-rehearsed scripts. And then she said something that broke me more than the act itself. "You're a good guy, Ethan. You just stopped being exciting." I didn't yell, didn't throw anything, didn't even cry. I just walked out. And for weeks, I felt like a ghost living inside my own life. But on that night, the night I ended up at Harper's, I'd finally realized something. Sitting alone in my crappy apartment wasn't fixing anything. So I grabbed my keys and drove until the neon, "Open 24 hours" sign flickered into view through the rain. The diner was nearly empty. Just a trucker at the counter and some couple arguing softly in the corner. I took a booth, ordered coffee, and tried not to think. Then she appeared. A woman, mid-30s maybe, toned but soft in the way someone's confident enough to not care about hiding anything. Dark hair tied up, sharp eyes that looked like they could read you faster than you could introduce yourself. She wore a leather jacket despite the warm air inside, and her voice had that low, steady tone that made you listen whether you wanted to or not. "You look like someone who just found out the truth hurts more than it should," she said, sliding into my booth without asking. I blinked at her. "Do I know you?" "No," she said, "but I know that look." Later, I'd learn her name. Later, I'd learn everything. But in that moment, I only knew one thing. My life had just taken a turn I never saw coming. I should have told her to leave. That's what any reasonable person would do when a stranger sits across from them and starts reading their soul like it's written on a receipt. But I didn't. Maybe because I was too exhausted to care. Maybe because there was something strangely grounding about her presence. Or maybe because for the first time in weeks, someone wasn't looking at me with pity. She gestured toward my untouched coffee. "Cold," she said. "You want a refill?" Before I could answer, she flagged the waitress down with 2 fingers, smooth, confident, practiced. The waitress nodded like she already knew her order. A fresh mug landed in front of me, one in front of her, and the woman finally leaned back like she intended to stay. "I'm Ava," she said. Short name, strong sound. It fit her. "Ethan," I replied. She lifted her cup. "Rough night, Ethan?" "Rough month." A corner of her mouth curved. Not quite a smile, more like acknowledgement. "Let me guess," she said. "Someone you cared about made a choice that shouldn't be forgiven as easily as they hope it will be." I stared at her. "How did you?" "That look," she interrupted. "I've worn it." I didn't know what to say. She didn't push. Instead, she rested her hands around her mug and waited. The rain hitting the diner windows filled the silence. "Lily cheated," I finally said. "My girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend." Ava's expression didn't change. No surprise. No gasp. Just steady acceptance. "How long?" she asked. "I don't even know. Months at least." She nodded once. People underestimate emotional betrayal. They think the worst part is losing the person. It's not. It's losing the version of yourself you were with them. I swallowed. Hard. Because that was exactly it. I'd been walking around feeling like I'd been hollowed out. "You sound like you've been through it," I said. "I have," she replied simply. "In this town, gossip spreads faster than weather alerts. I went through my divorce 3 years ago. Found out my husband had a whole other life with someone who was barely old enough to rent a car. Small towns make sure you never forget something like that." I didn't know what I expected, maybe bitterness or sarcasm. but her voice held none of that. Just calm, like she'd burned through the worst of it already. What helped you get over it? I asked. Ava tilted her head. I didn't say I got over it. She wasn't joking. I learned to focus on what I could control. My choices. My reactions. My future. Not him. Her gaze locked onto mine, unwavering. And right now, Ethan, you're letting someone else's betrayal dictate your entire life. I flinched, not because she was wrong, but because she was too right. That's not healthy, she added. I know. Good. She slid her mug aside. Because I think you and I can help each other. I blinked. Help each other how? Ava leaned forward, lowering her voice just enough that only I could hear. Let's call it, reclaiming what was taken from us. Her eyes glinted, not with malice, but with purpose. And I have a feeling, she said, that your ex isn't as innocent as she pretends to be. My pulse kicked. What exactly are you suggesting? I asked quietly. Ava smiled then. Slow. Knowing. Controlled. Nothing illegal, she said. Nothing cruel. She paused. Just justice. And in that moment, without fully understanding why, I knew one thing. This woman wasn't just passing through my life. She was about to change the entire trajectory of it. I was 24, standing in the mist outside Harper's diner, still trying to figure out whether this 34-year-old woman was being serious or if grief had just made me easy to manipulate. But Ava didn't look like someone who played games. She watched me with the steady, unreadable patience of someone who had already survived the worst and didn't fear much anymore. What do you mean by justice? I asked. Ava folded her arms. People who cheat rely on one thing, the belief that consequences won't reach them. Your ex is counting on that. She thinks you're predictable. My jaw tightened. How would you know? Because I've seen her, Ava said. Around town. With different guys. More than one. A cold wave went through my chest. Different, as in plural? Ava nodded once. At least two. One from the gym, one from the hardware store. Maybe more. And she's not exactly hiding it. My stomach dropped. I was angry before, but this felt different, sharper, humiliating in a way that made my pulse race. How long have you known? I asked. I didn't know, she said. I observed. People talk, especially in a town this size. And when you walked into that diner last night, you had the look of someone who thinks the betrayal was just one mistake. She paused. It wasn't. The rain hissed softly on the pavement. I felt stupid, blind, like everyone else had been watching a movie I didn't know I was in. Ava took a step closer. Her voice lowered. You trusted her. That's not the problem. The problem is that she counted on your trust, making you easy to lie to. It hit harder than I expected. And you want me to do what? I asked. Ava's expression didn't change. Stop letting Lily control the story. She's probably already telling people her version of the breakup, painting herself as the one who was unhappy. That sounded exactly like something Lily would do. So, Ava said, you take your power back. With someone who's been through this before and won't let you walk into it alone. You mean you? I said quietly. Yes. She didn't even blink. For a moment, neither of us spoke. There was tension, real, undeniable. Not romantic yet, but something charged, like two people recognizing the same wound in each other. What's the plan? I asked. Ava's eyes finally softened. We start simple. Truth, control, and steps that make her realize you're not the safe fallback she thinks you are. She held my gaze for a long, steady moment. If you want my help, she said, meet me tomorrow. Noon. My place. I didn't know exactly what I was agreeing to, but for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt something break through the numbness. A spark. Okay, I said. Ava nodded once, slow and sure. Good. Then tomorrow, we begin. The next day, right at noon, I pulled up to Ava's house. I was 24, she was 34, yet the gap felt smaller than it should have. Maybe because she carried herself like someone who already knew how the world worked, while I was still learning it the hard way. Her place surprised me. I expected something sharp, modern, cold, like the version of her I'd met at the diner. Instead, the house was warm, lived in, with a porch swing and potted plants. It looked like a place someone fought to make into a safe space after being hurt. Ava opened the door before I knocked. You're on time, she said. Good. She was in jeans and a soft sweater, hair loose around her shoulders. She looked different. Not softer exactly, but real. Come in, she added. Inside, Everything smelled faintly like citrus and clean laundry. The dining table had a stack of papers, 2 mugs, and her reading glasses resting on top, like she'd been preparing for this. "What's all that?" I asked. "Information," Ava said. "About Lily." My stomach tightened. "What kind of information?" Ava motioned for me to sit. She didn't sugarcoat. She didn't talk around things. She went straight to the truth. "Your ex has been seeing multiple guys," she said. "2 that I know of for sure. Maybe more. And she's been telling people you won't leave her because you're too stable and too predictable." The words landed like a slap. "She said that?" I asked. "She implied it." "Loudly enough," Ava replied. "Look, Ethan, she thinks she has you figured out. She thinks you're the safe fallback." Ava leaned forward slightly. "But you're not." I swallowed hard. "So what's your plan?" Ava tapped the papers. "Step 1, we stop letting her define you. Right now, she's shaping the story. She's making herself the victim. That stops today." I frowned. "How?" "By reclaiming your dignity," she said. "Publicly, privately, emotionally, piece by piece. Not revenge for the sake of cruelty. That isn't what we're doing. This is about balance." Her voice softened. "She took your confidence, your certainty, your sense of worth. We rebuild them. Together." There was a shift between us then, not quite romantic, but close enough to spark awareness. The air felt tighter, warmer. "Why are you helping me?" I asked quietly. Ava hesitated, just for a moment. "Because 3 years ago, when I found out my husband was cheating, no one helped me. People whispered, judged, assumed. And I promised myself I'd never let someone with the same look in their eyes stand alone." Her gaze locked onto mine. "You don't deserve to feel small. Not because of her." I exhaled slowly. "So what do we do first?" Ava leaned back, thinking. "First," she said, "you show the town, and Lily, that you aren't broken. That you're moving on, rebuilding, becoming someone stronger than before." I raised a brow. "And how do I do that?" Ava gave me a slight, knowing smile. "With me." The meaning was clear. Appearances, confidence, presence. A partnership that would get Lily's attention. A partnership that wouldn't stay simple for long. Ava didn't waste time. The moment I agreed, she pushed the papers aside and stood. Her confidence had a direction now, and somehow I felt myself matching her energy without even meaning to. "Come on," she said. "We're going out." "Out where?" "To be seen." I blinked. "By who?" "By everyone who thinks they know your story," she replied. "And by Lily." Those words sent a strange mix of nerves and anticipation through me. I was 24, trying to rebuild myself after someone I trusted tore me down. Ava, at 34, felt like the opposite of Lily in every possible way. Grounded, certain, unshakable. Ava grabbed her jacket, tossed me mine, and stepped out into the early afternoon sunlight. The town looked small as ever. Quiet streets, familiar storefronts, the slow rhythm of a place where everybody knew everybody's business. We walked side by side, not touching, not acting like anything. But Ava had a presence that made people look up when she passed, and I felt those looks shift to me too, like I'd suddenly become part of her gravity field. Our first stop was Baxter's Auto, my workplace. "You sure about this?" I asked. "Positive," Ava said. "Normal routine, normal interactions, but with confidence." Inside, my coworker Mason raised a brow when he saw Ava beside me. "New friend?" he asked. Ava answered for me. "We're working on something together." The tone suggested business, but the way she stood beside me suggested something else entirely. Mason's eyes flicked between us, curiosity unmistakable. The town didn't need details. It only needed hints. Exactly what Ava wanted. After a few minutes of small talk, we moved on, down Main Street, past the gym, past the hardware store. She was deliberate about the route, deliberate about the timing. At one point, she said, "You see him?" A guy standing outside the gym stared a little too long. "The one she was seeing," Ava murmured. My pulse spiked, not out of jealousy, but out of sudden clarity. She hadn't been exaggerating. He really did look at me like he knew something. Something smug. Ava stepped slightly closer, her arm brushing mine. Not affectionate, not staged, just enough to shift perception. He looked away first. Ava noticed. "Good," she whispered. "Let him wonder." We kept walking. The more we moved, the more I felt something steady growing inside me. Not revenge, not ego. Confidence. The kind I hadn't felt in months. Eventually, We reached the small park near the river. Ava sat on a bench, motioning for me to follow. This, she said, was step one. Just walking around? I asked. No, Ava corrected gently. Reclaiming your presence. Showing her world you're not hiding. Showing yourself that you can stand tall again. I sat beside her, exhaling. So what's step two? Ava turned her head toward me, her eyes steady, thoughtful. Step two, she said slowly, is letting Lily see what she lost. Not through pettiness, through strength. Then, after a beat, she added, and if she sees you beside someone like me, she'll understand exactly what she threw away. Something electric moved between us. Warm, quiet, dangerous in its own way. Not a plan, not yet romance. Something in between. Something becoming. Ava didn't rush step two. She let the moment settle between us, the quiet tension, the awareness, the unspoken understanding of what we were doing. We're letting her come to you. How? I asked. Ava gave me a small, strategic smile. This town thrives on observation. People see something once, they talk. People see it twice, they assume. People see it 3 times, it becomes truth. And what truth do we want? I asked. That you're moving on, Ava said. With confidence, with stability, and potentially, with someone she'll never compare to. Heat rushed through my chest. Are you sure you want to be part of that? If I didn't, Ava said, I wouldn't be here. Her tone left no room for doubt. She stood, dusting off her jeans. Come on, we're not finished. Where now? My friend's cafe, she said. A couple blocks over. Good visibility. Good crowd. The kind of place Lily checks religiously on social media. I blinked. She checks cafe posts. She checks everything, Ava said. Especially anything that might involve you. That was a detail I never knew. Maybe never wanted to know. But it made this next step make sense. At the cafe, Ava's friend, a woman named Sophie, greeted her with a warm hug and a curious glance in my direction. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. Ava had that effect. People understood what she wanted without her spelling it out. We sat by the window. Prime visibility. Ava ordered for both of us. Not controlling, just smooth. Confident. Natural. You comfortable? She asked after the waitress left. I think so. You don't have to act, she said. Just be present. That's enough for now. People walked by. A few glanced at us. One person whispered something to another. The town's information network was already working. At one point, a middle-aged couple approached to say hi to Ava. She introduced me with a calm, steady voice. This is Ethan. We've been spending some time together. Not a lie, but not the whole truth either. The couple's eyes lit with curiosity. They left with assumptions. Exactly what Ava wanted. After about 40 minutes, she checked her phone. Her expression shifted, barely, but I caught it. What? I asked. Lily just viewed the cafe story, Ava said. Twice. My pulse jumped. Already. Word travels fast here, she said. And she's watching you more closely than you think. I exhaled, tension and satisfaction mixing in a strange, powerful blend. Ava studied me for a moment. How do you feel? Honestly, better than I expected. Good, she said. Because this wasn't for her. It was for you. But it helps that she's paying attention. She leaned in slightly, not touching, but close enough for her voice to soften. Step 3, she said, is where we get deliberate. What does that mean? Her eyes held mine, steady and unreadable. It means that next time, Ava said, we let her see exactly what she threw away, and exactly who's helping you rise from it. Her meaning was clearer than ever now. Not just a plan, not just strategy, something shifting between us, something real, something dangerous to ignore. And for the first time since Lily shattered me, I didn't feel broken. I felt ready. I could feel the tension slowly settling as we walked through the quiet streets. Kelly's messages were still coming in, desperate and pleading, but for the first time, I didn't feel the need to respond. Ava walked beside me, calm and unwavering, her presence grounding me in a way I hadn't realized I needed. She's persistent, Ava said quietly. Yes, I admitted. But this time, I'm not the one she controls. Ava gave a small, approving nod. That's the key. The point isn't revenge for the sake of revenge. It's about reclaiming your own power, showing her that you're no longer defined by her choices. We stopped by a familiar cafe, the kind of place the town kept an eye on constantly. Ava guided me inside, and as we entered, I noticed how people glanced at us. Not because we were loud or dramatic, but because we carried a quiet confidence. Just be yourself, Ava said softly. Sit, talk, move naturally. That's enough. We took a table by the window, where the street was visible. People passed by, whispering and glancing. I felt eyes linger, noting my composure, my presence with Ava. It wasn't about showing off. It was about simply being seen as someone whole and unbroken. At one point, I caught a glimpse of Kelly hesitating at the doorway, uncertainty flickering across her face. She had expected me to be devastated, alone, and shattered. Instead, she saw someone standing tall, calm, and with someone by my side who exuded strength and understanding. Ava noticed the look on my face and smiled faintly. See, she said, you don't have to fight. Just live well. I exhaled, letting the weight of months of anger and betrayal finally ease. For the first time, I felt free. The next day, the town felt alive, but somehow smaller. Every street, every familiar shop felt different now because I felt different. I walked beside Ava, feeling steady, grounded. Kelly's presence was distant, no longer a shadow looming over my choices or my confidence. We stopped at the diner where it all began, and as we entered, people noticed. Not because we were making a scene, but because we carried ourselves with quiet assurance. Kelly was there in her mind, I knew, but she didn't approach. The sight of me composed and unbothered, with Ava at my side, said everything without a word. Thank you, I whispered to Ava once we were seated. You did all the work, she replied softly. I just helped you see it. We spent the afternoon walking through town, passing the shops and cafes, greeting neighbors casually, each interaction subtly asserting my independence and confidence. I realized that the story of my heartbreak wasn't about her betrayal. It was about reclaiming myself, step by step. By evening, we sat on Ava's porch, coffee in hand, the town quiet and warm beneath the fading sunlight. There were no texts to check, no manipulations to decipher, just calm, peace, and the steady presence of someone who truly understood. I looked at Ava, a smile forming naturally. I wasn't seeking revenge, I wasn't seeking approval. I had faced the betrayal, endured the heartbreak, and chosen my own path. Living well, standing tall, and finding someone to trust again felt like the most complete triumph. And in that moment, I knew, the best revenge isn't anger. It's reclaiming your life, your story, and your confidence, and never letting someone else dictate your worth. I glanced at Ava, her eyes meeting mine, and for the first time in a long while, I felt completely at peace. The end. The next morning, the sun barely peeked over the horizon, painting the streets in soft light. I followed Ava through the quiet town, her pace steady, her presence unshakable. There was a rhythm to the way she moved, confident yet deliberate, like someone who had faced chaos before and emerged stronger. I realized I had been relying on her steadiness as much as she was guiding me. We're going to start small today, Ava said, glancing at me. Nothing dramatic, just presence. People notice confidence before words. I frowned. Presence. She smiled faintly. Walking, standing, talking with intention. Showing up in a way that leaves an impression without trying. It's subtle. It's powerful. And most importantly, it's for you, not her. We walked past the little cafe where I used to meet Kelly, past the park where I had spent countless afternoons before everything fell apart. I felt a strange mix of anxiety and excitement. Every step felt like an assertion. I was reclaiming the parts of my life she had tried to control. Ava led me to a small bookstore on Main Street. The kind with warm lighting, shelves that smelled of paper and wood, and a little bell above the door that chimed softly when you entered. She pushed the door open and gestured for me to follow. See, she said, even in a small space, you can command attention without speaking. Watch and learn. She approached the cashier, chatting casually, and I noticed the way people turned their heads slightly when she passed. It wasn't because she demanded it. It was because she had a natural ease that drew eyes and attention. I could feel some of that energy rubbing off on me. When she finally turned to me, her eyes met mine. Now it's your turn. Pick a book, browse, ask a question. Engage. I swallowed. My hands shook slightly as I reached for a book on a shelf. What should I say? Say what feels natural, she said. You're not performing. You're present. I walked over to the cashier, clearing my throat. Hi, do you have anything new in fiction? The cashier smiled. Yes, we just got a few releases yesterday. I nodded, feeling an unfamiliar sense of control. Ava observed quietly, giving subtle guidance only with a tilt of her head or a faint smile. By the time we left the store, I noticed heads turning as we walked out, some curious glances, some admiring. It was subtle, but I knew it worked. As we stepped back into the street, Ava leaned slightly toward me. Every interaction counts. Every glance, every gesture. It's all part of rebuilding yourself. I nodded, the weight of the previous months slowly lifting. For the first time, I felt like I could exist in the world without her shadow looming over me. Ava was right. Presence mattered. Confidence mattered. And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt like I could reclaim both. Later that day, Ava guided me to a small art gallery tucked between two larger buildings on Main Street. The interior was intimate, quiet, and filled with local artwork. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the paintings. Another small step, Ava said. We're not performing for anyone here. We're just existing in a way that's noticed. I followed her lead, observing her ease as she moved between the paintings. People greeted her casually, neighbors, friends, and even a few strangers. I realized how natural she was in public and how powerful that quiet assurance could be. She stopped at a painting near the window and looked at me. Your turn. Look around. Ask questions. Engage with people. You're learning to be comfortable in your own presence. I nodded and slowly approached a small group discussing a sculpture. Excuse me, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Can you tell me more about this piece? They welcomed me into the conversation. I listened, asked a few more questions, and felt the subtle shift Ava had promised. It wasn't about showing off or seeking attention. It was about existing confidently, being part of the space without hesitation. After a while, we stepped outside. The town was quiet, and the late afternoon light softened everything. Ava looked at me and said, Do you feel it? Feel what? The difference. The way people perceive you when you carry yourself this way. You're no longer someone who hides. You're someone who commands presence, even without speaking. I exhaled slowly. She was right. I could feel the weight of fear and uncertainty lifting. The months of betrayal, humiliation, and anger hadn't vanished, but I had gained something stronger, control over how I existed in the world. As we walked back toward her car, I realized that Ava's guidance wasn't just helping me confront the aftermath of betrayal. It was teaching me to take ownership of my own life. Every step, every glance, every small interaction was building me into someone stronger. Step 2 complete, she said quietly. Soon, step 3 will bring us closer to the point where she finally notices the difference, without us having to say a word. I nodded, understanding. This wasn't about direct confrontation. It was about presence, strength, and reclaiming myself in a way that couldn't be ignored. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of forward motion. The path was still uncertain, but I knew I wasn't walking it alone. Ava's calm, steady presence gave me the courage to continue, one deliberate step at a time. By the time we reached her car, the evening had settled in, and the town looked familiar, yet entirely new to me. I had begun to rebuild myself, and I felt something I hadn't in a long time: hope.